What's happening, Bills Mafia? Ryan Thomas here for another post-game show. Thomas Take Sports Podcast, Buffalo Bills post-game show, week 2, recapping all the action that took place yesterday. It's Monday. It's a rarity that I'm on the show on a Monday recapping the game post-game, but you know what? I celebrated yesterday's win like a true Bills fan, and maybe I celebrated just a little too hard. Went a little too hard in the paint or in the shot glass, celebrating the game, celebrating the win yesterday. Nothing wrong with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think many Bills fans, will have a problem with that celebration. But so yesterday, I'm watching the game at the bar that I was at. For every touchdown the Bills had, you took a shot. And they had 5 touchdowns. So did I take a shot after every touchdown? We'll leave that for the viewer to decide. But I could not hop on the show last night. So we'll just put it that way. I could not hop on the way that I normally do, due in large part to the fact that I was pretty exhausted. The shots went right to the head, and I was celebrating, having a fun time. Celebrating the Bills' 35-0 victory over the Miami Dolphins. It was a fun game to tune into. I'm going to recap it. Plenty of work to be done, though. Go down the rabbit hole of where the Bills looked very, very good and where the Bills looked like they have some work to do. Obviously, you have to respect the opponent, tip your cap to the opponent, as I did in the Bills versus Dolphins pregame show. But Miami is not the team that they think they are. They're not the team that they need to be just yet. And I think Buffalo's proven that time and time again when these teams go head-to-head, when these two teams go head-to-head, it appears as if the Buffalo Bills just simply have Miami's number. And it's going to take Miami quite some time to catch up to Buffalo in terms of their roster, their competitive level. Really just top to bottom, Miami is just simply not there yet. They're getting there. But obviously, with this lopsided of a score, 35-0, as Buffalo heads on the road to Miami, we know one thing is for sure: Miami is not who they think they are, and I think they got a long way to go. This loss sets them back quite a bit, despite the fact that it's early in the season. This loss sets Miami back quite a bit with a 35-0 loss to an AFC East rival. But as the banner says, this is the post-game show, week 2 show. I want you guys to fire away your comments in the comments section below. Anyone that has a comment that they want to throw down, I will read it off on the show live right here, right now. So I'll get to the comments at the end of the show, I should say. I'm going to give you my take, give you my reaction to this game. A very solid game indeed for the Buffalo Bills, and a game that I feel puts them right back in the thick of things in terms of who we want them to be and who we think they can be and who we think they were and who we think they are, frankly, heading into this 2021 season. 1-1 now, and simply put, to put the first statement out there, there were 3 keys to victory in my pregame show, 3 of them. Neutralizing Myles Gaskin, pressuring the quarterback, and last and certainly not least, a balanced attack on offense. We saw all 3 of those things take place. We saw the Bills neutralize Myles Gaskin. We saw the Buffalo Bills take Tua out of the game early via pressure, via A.J. Epinesa taking Tua out of the game early. And we saw the Buffalo Bills have a balanced attack on offense. And to have a balanced attack on offense, that was a tall request for a Bills fan to ask of this Bills offensive coordinator Brian Daboll, offensive coaches, because the Buffalo Bills have not been a balanced offense really in the last year and a half. Last year, for as great as our passing game was, the run game was really nowhere to be found, wasn't really allowed to be found last year due to how little our running backs got the ball in Devin Singletary and Zach Moss. And this game taught me quite a lot. This game taught me that not only was I hopeful that the Buffalo Bills would have some sort of a run game, but that Devin Singletary and Zach Moss can get the job done. They can get the job done. They're good enough. They're not, neither one is great, but both of them can be very good as a tandem in the backfield for the Buffalo Bills. And much to my dismay last week, Buffalo's offensive line looked pitiful last week against the Pittsburgh Steelers. This week, in terms of pass blocking, it was a little bit better, but run blocking, Buffalo's offensive line looked fantastic. Devin Singletary made a lot of plays. Second play from scrimmage, a 46-yard touchdown scamper. Zach Moss, although he fumbled the ball early in the action, he was able to recover, respond, and get 2 second, third, fourth effort rushing touchdowns that were shades of Marshawn Lynch out there back when Marshawn was playing for the Buffalo Bills. So Zach Moss channeled his inner beast mode. Devin Singletary did his thing. And it made me want to say to the viewers that are tuning into this, and the viewers and the listeners, I should say, that'll be listening to this show on all the audio podcasting platforms, that I have full belief that Devin Singletary and Zach Moss can get the job done when they are allowed to, when they are featured within the game plan. And it was a very welcome sight to see these two running backs featured in the game plan, to see these two running backs given the rock and given the ability that they both have to allow their abilities to be seen. And Miami had really no answer for the run game between Singletary and Zach Moss. And I'm happy to see that both running backs had the opportunity and took the opportunity and literally ran with it in this game. So that's something that I want to get off my chest right out of the gate here, that Devin Singletary and Zach Moss can get the job done. We have no, worries in saying that. So the next comment, first comment of the show, Brent Thomason. I love the Facebook picture. He says, I'll address the pink elephant in the room, Josh Allen. I will address the pink elephant in the room right here, right now, Brent. Josh Allen's 2021 thus far. Okay. Thus far, from my vantage point, Josh Allen looks one of two things. He looks antsy, and he looks like he's trying to force things, to the tune of 179 yards, 17 of 33, and, touchdown pass in yesterday's action, as well as a rushing touchdown that was called back. But, we saw that athleticism that Allen showed his rookie year. I have to give Allen the benefit of the doubt in this regard. This is Allen's 4th season. So we expect that continuation of his jump from year 2 to year 3. We expected it going into this season, but realistically, we should have expected something else. We should have expected the fact that Josh Allen, for as great a season as he had in year 3, from year 2 to year 3, we should have expected the opposing defenses to study Allen and why he was so successful last year, how he was able to get the ball out of his hands so quickly, how he was able to lead his receivers so well, how he was able to find his receivers given the time that he was given. And in certain instances last year, these opposing defensive coordinators study the guys that are most successful year to year, and Allen was one of the guys that was most successful. Aaron Rodgers was another one. He laid a stinker last week. Josh Allen laid a stinker last week, and he was a little bit better this week, but not much better. We'll find out how much better Aaron Rodgers is going to be in a little bit here as Monday Night Football's kicked off. I haven't had the game on. I haven't really been tuning into it because I'm on the show right now, but my point is, year to year, this league is so much different. The teams that are really, really bad get a little bit better. Whether they're still bad compared to everybody else, that's another topic for another day. But they get a little bit better. And Josh Allen is facing that storm, facing the storm of these teams, these two teams, week 1, week 2, that have phenomenal passing defenses. The Pittsburgh Steelers have a great secondary. I would say the greatest facet of Miami's roster is their secondary. So the fact that Allen hasn't really had a great start to the year, I don't think we have reason to fully panic as much as we are, as much as I have seen Bills fans on Twitter, Bills fans on Facebook, Bills fans on Instagram. I think Josh Allen is a quote-unquote live by the sword, die by the sword quarterback. Brett Favre was the same way. and he was loved for it. I think that's what makes fans love Josh Allen one moment and then feel frustrated with Josh Allen in the next moment. I understand what you see is what you get. He's a 6'5", 230-pound behemoth of a quarterback that can throw better on the run than he can from the pocket. And I think he's mightily improved from the pocket, standing in the pocket. But he's one of the best quarterbacks on the run in the National Football League outside of Pat Mahomes. He has that athleticism, that ability to make these weird, wacky throws. And we saw that with his touchdown pass to Stephon Diggs. Kind of calling for Zach Moss to get to the end zone. He sees out of the corner of his eye, Diggs is there. He fires it. The ball's in Diggs' hands in the blink of an eye. Those are plays that most quarterbacks can't make. But then the simple throws to the sideline, the screen passes, the throws over the middle of the field could be low, could be away, could be high, could be too hard of a pass. And those are the things mechanically that Josh Allen corrected last year. We're starting to see those habits have a rebound effect, I guess. We're starting to see those bad habits again, and I think there's a few reasons for that. One, first and foremost, I talked about this on my Facebook status. I tweeted it. It's extremely tough for Allen to be the quarterback he was last year when these opposing coaches are preparing for him and analyzing him and studying him and finding what his weaknesses are and attacking his weaknesses, not allowing him to play within his strengths. Two, Buffalo gave Allen 2 offensive drives in a 3-week preseason. That worried me. It worried me. I talked about it briefly on the show. Some people disagreed. Some people thought I was being a worrywart. I said something to the tune of, I think you need to get him more action. He's the QB1. You can't simulate a preseason game. You can't simulate a practice in the same form or fashion as a preseason game. As ridiculous as these preseason games are, hand to God, I can't stand them. I wish they didn't exist. But they do help these players prepare for the regular season. It's as close as you can get to a real game where you have an opponent that's wearing a different color jersey than you, and you can attack a defense. You can attack an offense. Allen only had 2 drives to do that, and it was in the final preseason game. I think we're starting to see, at least to start the season, a little bit of rust in terms of Allen against the competition that we didn't see last year, because he did get the reps that he needed last year in the preseason and leading up to. Not in the preseason. Get the reps last year in terms of preparing with his team, but preparing with your team combined with the fact that you have people preparing to beat you, preparing to get that edge against you. Josh Allen's got a bullseye on his back heading into this year. All the defensive coordinators want to get after him. All the defensive coordinators don't want him to make them look silly, because he has that type of potential. But if you were to ask me, am I worried about Josh Allen? No. I think Josh Allen is going to round his game out as the season progresses. Next week, we got Washington, who is a very formidable front seven, one of the better defenses in the NFC, one of the better defenses in the NFL. And they even haven't had, the start to the season that they thought they would in terms of being a truly dominant defense. There's moments last week against the Giants where the Giants were able to move the football down the field. So who's to say Josh Allen isn't the guy to expose this defense, this Washington football defense? And who's to say that the Washington football defense won't have an easy or a tough time with Allen? It's what makes this game great. There's matchups, there's X's and O's, figuring out where Allen can be better. I think is a top priority for this offense. And I think simplifying things for Allen, getting back to the basics, allowing the run game to open up the pass game, I think was a huge step forward in this week's action. The Bills, with that run game, kind of took a lot of pressure off of Allen. And a matter of fact, I think that's why we saw Allen kind of make those late deep bomb throws that he made, to Stephon Diggs. We saw Allen take more risks as that game wore on. And that was actually, it was a welcome sight, because you knew that he was getting comfortable, but in the sense that, he just wasn't really quite there. He's just a little bit off. I do see that rounding itself out. I don't foresee that, sight to continue in this, in this season or for this team. Josh Allen's the real deal. It's just a matter of getting those cobwebs out, getting those nerves out, and pushing forward. And if anybody can do that, it's Josh Allen. I think the story of this game, in which the Buffalo Bills squished the fish 35-0 on the road against the Miami Dolphins. The moral of this game, the story of this game, is not Josh Allen's struggles, is not the fact that Brian Daboll finally decided to bring a balanced offensive attack for the first time in a long time in a game plan. The story of this game, and it's a story that could continue, and I think it will continue, is the fact that the Buffalo Bills front four is formidable. This Buffalo Bills front four was terrorizing the Miami Dolphins offensive line. They terrorized Tua early. A.J. Epinesa took Tua out of the game. Jacoby Brissett, who has started a lot of games over the course of his career, whether it was in Indy and New England. He's started a lot of games over the course of his career. So to have him as a backup for Miami, when Jacoby Brissett comes in, I'm thinking, okay, am I worried about Brissett? No, but do I know that he can play? Of course he can. He's played a lot of starts in this league at the quarterback position. He's won a lot of big games for those two teams under trying circumstances, whether it was Luck's retirement or Tom Brady's suspension. He knows what it's like to take the role of a QB1, even though he's not quite as talented as some of these other guys. And the Bills defense didn't miss a beat. They didn't miss a beat in terms of pressure. They didn't miss a beat in terms of hurries. They didn't miss a beat in terms of quarterback hits. And to see that from the guys that we saw it from this past week, guys like Gregory Rousseau, a rookie who I think was a slam dunk pick for the Buffalo Bills thus far. I've keyed in on Gregory Rousseau in these games. I'm watching him. If I had my, John Madden yellow circle, I'd be circling him with my finger for everybody to say, look at this, to say, hey, look at this guy. This guy is legit. This guy is a very formidable defensive end in terms of his size. The presence that he has on the defensive line has provided Buffalo with a little bit of an edge. And we also have to take into consideration and take into account that Star Latuile was back. And Star being back, the guys in the locker room talk about how crucial he is a player for this team. And I thought, well, we'll see about that. He hasn't been on the team in a year. They went 13-3 without him. We'll see. Well, in terms of the pressure, in terms of stopping the run, a big difference with Star in the lineup compared to Star not in the lineup over this last year. And Justin Zimmer is probably one of the greatest Bills steals in recent memory since the days of Kyle Williams. So to see Zimmer play at the level that he did, to see Gregory Rousseau play at the level that he did once again, and to understand that, this is just the start of something pretty awesome. You got a lot of young talent on that defensive line that you've invested high draft choices in, whether it's A.J. Epinesa, whether it's Gregory Rousseau, whether it's Boogie Basham, who I do expect to see in the lineup pretty soon here this season. You have to tip your cap and say this Buffalo Bills front four is formidable. Where the offense might be taking a step back, the defense looks like it's taking a massive step forward. And Buffalo Bills head coach Sean McDermott is controlling what he can control. That's his side of the ball. That's him and Leslie Frazier, controlling that side of the ball and trying to figure out who makes sense. One guy goes out, one guy goes in, one guy goes out, one guy goes in. That defensive line has a great rotation to it. And Jerry Hughes is looking at this defensive line right now and saying, wow, we got some good young guys. And now Jerry Hughes is the old dog, and they got these, new war horses in there that are just crushing it. And I noticed it last week as well, despite the fact that they really didn't get many, sacks on Big Ben in comparison to the sacks that they got on Tua and Brissett this week. There were pressures, there were hurries, and there were moments in a lot of moments in both of those games where the line of the Buffalo Bills, the defensive line of the Buffalo Bills, is controlling the line of scrimmage. And it's exciting because one thing we do know, you need to be able to get after the quarterback in this league. You have to be able to stop the run in this league. If you can do that, you have a real good chance at winning games in this league, regardless as to whether or not people think this is a passing league. It is. There are a lot of pass-first teams. That's okay. But you have to be able to stop the run. If you can't stop the run, you are going to just get worked the entire game. So the Bills' front four is formidable. I think it's only going to get better as long as these guys stay healthy. I only anticipate things getting better for them in terms of their performance, and I'm really excited to see what that defensive line is made of. Sean Reeves says, are any D-line players at risk for trade with Epinesa and Rousseau? Not this year, I don't think. They have Addison, who is on a pretty high cap number, but next year he more likely than not will be gone. Jerry Hughes, I'm not too sure whether they'll keep him around beyond this year, but I think those guys are all going to stay put this year. I don't see them messing that up because I think as it stands right now, that's obviously a strength of their team with what we saw this past week. I think that's only going to get better. Adam Huxell says, I think with each game, Dawkins gets in better shape. The return of Star Latuile is massive for our front four. I completely agree. And this team talked about it in almost in a repetitive way that Star Latuile is so crucial for this team. And I would kind of roll my eyes and be like, all right, he's been gone for a year and we went 13-3 without him. But you see him back in the lineup. You see that run defense dimension back in full swing for the Buffalo Bills, as well as that quarterback pressure dimension, that the pass rushing dimension of our defense is back. And that's very, very, very exciting. I think that's just as exciting as Buffalo's offense was last year. If you could take Buffalo's offense from last year and the defense from the year before, you have a real scary team on your hands. And even years past, guys like Mario Williams, Kyle Williams, Jerry Hughes, Marcel Darius, that cold front. If we get a little bit of that back, I think it would go a long, long way. So we'll see. There are a lot of beat writers saying that we could see a trade coming. I don't think that's necessary. I'd like to see these guys stick together this year and then go from there. I don't think there's a player worth trading on this team for anything that would make this team better now. Could we trade somebody for a pick? Yeah, but we want to win games. I'm playing all in for this year. I'm trying to win this year. I'm trying to win a Super Bowl. The Bills window is a nice window, but is this year the year? We'll see. We got a lot of work to do, I think, to get there. I don't think this team is a finished product as far as being as good as they can be. But I'll say that, and then I know a lot of members of Bills Mafia will be frustrated with me saying that after a 35-0 win, but you can't tell me that there weren't moments in this game that were frustrating. The great teams take all that bullshit and throw it away. The great teams don't let that bullshit happen. Bullshit happen. They just don't. And I think it takes a long time for you to get to that point where all that bull crap doesn't happen. And whether it's penalties, whether it's little facets of a comment that was thrown down about Deion Dawkins, about Adam Huxell just commented that. He said Deion Dawkins with each game will get better. Deion Dawkins needs to be at peak performance for this team to improve and play at the level that they need to play at in order to get to where they want to go. Without that, you're in some trouble. Without a left tackle that's as adequate on that offensive line, you need a solid guy. I think Deion Dawkins is that guy, but physically, we know that he had COVID last year. We know that things have been a little bit dicey for him these last few, months here based on his COVID diagnosis. But being brought back into the fold of things, the strength is not quite where it needs to be. I think maybe as the season wears on, we start to see that. Adam Huxell again, he says, are you concerned at all about Tremaine Edmonds? Plays timid at times, left with cramping, somewhat a shell of himself from 2 seasons ago. I'm really glad you threw this comment out here, Adam. It's a real good question. A lot of people right now, I feel they're concerned about a lot of things as far as this team goes. Allen's somewhat slow start, being a part of it. The play calling by Brian Dable has been a concern of mine for 2 years now, 3 years now. And I think when you rewatch these games, you watch the tape again, you see that Tremaine Edmunds, as of now, Tremaine Edmunds does not have the instincts that you need to have as a 4-year linebacker. He just doesn't have it. And I'm not saying that he can't or that he never will, but as of right now, as I sit here right now on the show, the Thomas Take Sports Podcast Buffalo Bills post-game show, week 2, recapping this 35-0 drubbing of the Miami Dolphins, I feel like Tremaine Edmunds is just not quite there. And it makes me wonder, as I've wondered last year, is Tremaine Edmunds meant to play on the outside? Is he not the middle linebacker that they thought he could be? I know they'll plug him there. He's the best option they have at that position. But is that his true position? Could he be better on the outside? We have a nickel corner on this team that's playing fantastic football in Teron Johnson. So the Bills have, 4 down linemen, 2 linebackers, and, a nickel corner, along with our corners and free and strong safety. And you don't want to take Teron Johnson off the field because he has played a phenomenal, season, a year and a half. I mean, he's a guy that I think doesn't get nearly enough credit. But you watch the tape of Tremaine Edmunds and how he attacks the run. The linebacker's job is to find the ball. And find the ball, meaning find the ball carrier. Obviously, the ball is being carried by somebody. Find the ball, whether it's in the passing game, whether it's in the run game. The linebacker's job is not to attack the lineman. I've seen plays where, whether it's Miami handing the ball off to Myles Gaskin or Pittsburgh handing the ball off to Najee Harris, or even dating back to last year where Kansas City was handing the ball off to Clyde Edwards-Helaire, where Tremaine Edmunds would attack the offensive lineman. That's not his job. His job is to find the ball carrier. His job is to get to the ball carrier. If Tremaine Edmunds wants to attack the lineman, maybe you put him at defensive end. We have a full wealth of defensive ends. I highly doubt they would do that. But you get where I'm going with this. That's not his job. And I think instinctually there is a ton of work to be done with Edmunds, who doesn't really seem to have his body in the right position to make a play, oversteps the play or understeps the play, plays too far back, plays too far in. There's a lot of times where he's just not in the right position. And it's very frustrating because, I understand it as well as anyone. He came into the league at the age of 19, and to come into the National Football League at the age of 19 is remarkable. It's incredible. It's a rarity in this league to see a player at that age drafted, let alone drafted with a top 20 pick. And I think if I go back to, the archives of the show, Thomas Take Archives, I'm talking about when I rated these linebackers, I thought Raquan Smith was pretty damn good, and I thought Tremaine Edmunds was pretty damn good, but I didn't necessarily see Tremaine Edmunds as a middle linebacker in the NFL. And, knowing that Buffalo was extremely weak at that position, they take Edmunds, they put him there, they plug him there, and they're molding him to be their linebacker for the next 10 to 15 years. The idea is great. It sounds great, but it just hasn't worked in the way that I would hope it would by now. We haven't seen that leap in Edmunds' game that we saw last year and even Allen's game. And I know they're two completely different positions, but when you think of the old verbiage of a quarterback as a quarterback of the offense, of course, and the middle linebacker is the quarterback of the defense, I haven't seen Tremaine Edmunds take that step as a player. Maybe he has in the locker room. I'm not privy to that. But on the field, I haven't seen him take that leadership type step that Brian Urlacher took, that Ray Lewis took, that Zach Thomas took, that Derek Brooks took. Great linebackers over the course of the last 15, 20 years, right? All Hall of Famers should be. Zach Thomas should be, in my opinion. And it's not because of the last name, but might be a part of it. But I just think that Tremaine Edmunds is just not where he needs to be. And Allen's not where he needs to be either. And you got to get that right in order to get past who we need to get past. We know that there's teams in this league that are getting better. each and every week. We know that the Browns are getting better. We know that Baltimore is getting better. They just beat the Kansas City Chiefs in a real close game. But I really feel that, the time is now for Tremaine Edmonds to take that next step. If he can, great. If he doesn't, it's really going to hurt us. It's going to hurt us. And we're going to have to make an adjustment there for sure. So great comment, great question. I appreciate it, Adam. Always appreciate the support from you. Any other comments we can get to? I would love to get to more. So let's get to more here. Let's see here. Ken Zintel, Tua fish and smoked brisket sandwiches all day. Oh, man, that's great. Tua fish and smoked brisket sandwiches. No matter what quarterback you put out there, and can I throw this out there too? I feel like I give Tua a tough time, and I hate to kick a man while he's down. I say that on the show a lot. I hate to kick a man while he's down. Tua was down and out last week or yesterday due to AJ Epinesa, and I hate to kick a man while he's down, but Tua is just so not the guy that it's like the only person that hasn't let the Miami Dolphins in on the gag is someone within that organization. It's like they've heard it, but they don't quite listen to it. Someone's got to let them in on the gag that he's just not it. And he's not it, not because he doesn't have the physical tools. I think that's an obvious reason as to why he's not it. Durability is a huge, huge question mark for Tua. And when we talked about, quarterbacks a couple years ago that were coming into the league, guys like Burrow, Herbert, and Tua, I talked about it almost it was nauseating to say if I have a top 5 pick, there's no way I can invest it in a quarterback that has had as many injuries, serious injuries, as what Tua had over the course of his career with the Crimson Tide. There was just no way. There's just no way I could invest in that high of a draft choice in a quarterback that cannot stay healthy, cannot take a hit. Brissett took some wallops in the game yesterday, got right back up. Tua is just physically not capable of taking the hits in the National Football League. I don't see Miami with Tua in the fold 3, 4, 5 years from now. I talked about that before the season started when I looked at all the divisions, and my opinion has not changed on that. Now, when I look at, the fact that Miami, we know these teams in the division very well. New England was able to find their guy post Tom Brady and Mac Jones. We haven't seen Mac Jones yet. We haven't watched Mac Jones against the Bills yet, but I've watched a lot of Mac Jones, as I love to watch all the players in terms of their preparation into the league. And Mac Jones is a solid quarterback. I'm confident that Mac Jones could be good for New England. Wasn't confident in Zach Wilson. He throws 4 picks yesterday. He looked god-awful yesterday. A guy that shouldn't have been thrown into that situation that soon on that poor of a team, and a guy that probably shouldn't have been drafted that high by a team that needed a quarterback, or by a team that didn't actually need a quarterback, by a team that just abandoned their quarterback that they'd just drafted, 3-4 years prior. But where I'm going with this is we know the teams in the division as well as any other team outside of our own because we play them twice a year. And if I'm Miami, my best piece of advice to the Dolphins, and people are going to laugh at this, but I'm just being honest. My best piece of advice to the Dolphins is to stop drafting quarterbacks that are under 6'2". Stop drafting quarterbacks that can't take hits. Stop drafting quarterbacks until you're picking first overall and you have as sure a bet as Trevor Lawrence, Peyton Manning, or Andrew Luck. That happens once every, 15 years? But at this rate, Miami's needed a quarterback every 3-4 years with how they've been doing it. So every 4 quarterbacks, you're bound to find someone decent or better than the last 3 prior to him. So, I don't understand why Miami took Tua over Herbert. I think it was a horrible decision, and I think that it's going to be to the excitement of the Bills as well as the Patriots over the course of the next 5 years that they have Tua. Teams now know. Yeah, Shane Becker meant to say teams now know how to play Allen. They had all summer to figure that out, and now you're seeing it. Yeah, and I talked about that earlier. As far as the preparation that these teams have to stop these guys. Pat Mahomes. There are ways to stop a player like that. As crazy as that sounds, it just hasn't happened yet. But an opposing defense like Tampa Bay was the defense to do it. A team with great coverage linebackers, a team with great tackling linebackers, a team that can stop the run and force Mahomes to throw 50 to 55 passes in a game. That's how you beat the Chiefs. How you beat Allen? You don't allow him to be athletic. You don't allow him to get outside the pocket and make these wacky throws. You force him to make decisions. And I think Allen's decision making is actually better than what he's given credit for. But I think Allen's actually overanalyzing the game, overanalyzing the touch on the throws, overanalyzing the moment, and getting a little too antsy. But all in all, I mean, this was a drubbing of a victory for the Buffalo Bills, and I really enjoyed seeing the balanced attack on offense. To see a balanced attack on offense is what is going to make this team better than the team last year. You have to have the run game in your bag of tricks. You have to have the run game as a ready, willing, and able option at all times. It has to be somewhat known that you got some guys back there that can make plays. And I think we do. I think Devin Singletary is a stud. I think Zach Moss can play. I think they are just fine, which is largely why I didn't want the Buffalo Bills to draft a running back. I'm glad they didn't, and I'm glad they brought the balanced attack on offense back. So there you have it. Ryan Thomas post-game show, the TTSP Thomas Take Sports Podcast post-game show. Week 2, Buffalo Bills squish the fish 35-0. We're on to Washington. We're back to Orchard Park. How about that? I can't wait to give you a preview to next week's game. Follow all things Thomas Take Sports Podcast on the Thomas Take Sports Podcast Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, you name it. Greatly appreciate the support. You guys stay safe, of course. Take care, and go Bills. Thanks for tuning in. Looking forward to talking to you next time.